welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and up on its sides the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. That was worth it, right? I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Josh Flanagan of iFanboy.com. How's it going, everybody?
I really thought you were going to keep going. Like, Josh Flanagan from...
The Coriolis. No, not the
there's a
Coriolis
wall
effect.
there.
What's the other one?
Definitely.
It's a little bit the Coriolis effect. No, the Doppler.
Doppler effect. There you go. Doppler radar.
Doppler. Yeah, thanks for coming back, finishing the week with us, Josh.
It's. I don't want to admit it, but it's a lot of fun. And I thought, I'm going to be up all night, but I'm having a lot of fun, and I don't really care.
It is a Star Wars party.
Let's go.
And you learned something along the way.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Probably something about, like, something that happened in, like, the 30s, or based on how we've been skewing this week.
23 skidoo.
But we are here for Minute 10 of Solo, a Star Wars party now available on Blu-ray and digital. Minute 10 starts with Han and Kira grinding to a halt as their speeder gets stuck in an alleyway. And it ends with Han and Kira grinding to a halt as they get stuck in the security line at the airport. So
that's
like
I'll just
like poetry
blow it.
Rhymes.
I used all my notes for the week, and the only one that I have left is they're hampered by lines and crowds. That's my sole remaining notes, which is it's so mundane.
You're free to go, I guess.
there you go. Contract fulfilled.
Thanks for coming.
Well,
Crap.
I did want to bring up. We've got a couple of things from the Kazdan that are applicable to this particular scene because
Yes.
in between the speeder getting stuck, they take off on foot, and before they get to the airport, we have the eel scene. Although, should I hold on to the eel scene for a little bit until we actually get there? Because first we have them getting stuck. We have the Moloch Eels after them with random blasting. See, there he's speaking. Was he speaking English, or is it subtitled that he says after them?
I think it's subtitles.
You just learned Huttese through this. And
Yeah,
you didn't
exactly.
know that you recognized.
I think he says
like
he doesn't say release the hounds, but he says like get the hounds, but it's subtitled. Yes.
He sings it. He's like, I'll release the hounds.
You got what you asked for.
There you go.
Well, yeah. Well, no, yeah. He definitely has had subtitles before, but
Yeah, you're right.
Selectively, they.
Right.
I think R2-D2 and Chewbacca should also be subtitled because I think it's a shame that we don't get to hear what they have to say.
I disagree entirely because over the years I've crafted a lot of different dialogue for them, and much of it is an aggrieved person with.
It should be programmable. Like you should be able to put in your own subtitles at home to make whatever you want for your headcanon.
I want to go the other way. I want C-3PO to be the only person that we can understand. Everybody else is speaking alien languages, and none of them are subtitled. And we just hear C-3PO going like, "Oh my!" That's it.
Lately, like R2-D2 is Sam Jackson from Pulp Fiction in my head. Like he's just constantly swearing and yelling and.
Pete, I'll go. So in your scenario, is C-3PO speaking English at all?
Yes, he's speaking English. We can understand him. Everybody else is speaking alien languages. Sometimes they're subtitled if we need to know the plot, but usually they're not.
Okay.
That would have been a different movie.
Yeah.
That's what George really wanted to make, though.
That's what he should have.
Yeah.
Like a space tone poem.
Yeah. Space tone poem.
Well, before we have the Corellian hounds. Can we do some
Unleash
Corellian
the hounds?
I think they're pretty cool looking. You can see them very well in the, of course, in the official Star Wars guide. You can see a good shot of them. Apparently, I was wondering how they did it, and I found out some information.
I second that information.
I'm getting a report that they were done with real dogs wearing masks.
Yeah,
Really?
dog animals in costumes. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite
allowed
things.
to do that?
They are, because they specified in the thing. They were like they had a clear line of sight and ample breathing room. So as long as those are those things are accounted for.
I've owned dogs of various levels of cuteness. Alex is definitely familiar with my French bulldog. Rest in peace, George Clooney, the French bulldog. And I had a pretty strict no clothing policy for him, except in the case of functional. It's cold and he can't exist in it because Lindsay always was like, well, "Let's get a costume for him." I was like, "No, he has we've talked about this now that I'm remembering. Like we've We've had long conversations about this now that I think about it. But yeah, so I don't know how I feel about it in terms of a movie. I feel like that's, especially when you don't have to. Is it easier or harder? I guess it's more expensive to do digital dogs.
Digital dogs.
I assume that because they have those collars on, I assume that they were just dogs wearing green screen heads that they would replace with things. It's a perfect thing.
It's probably $1 million difference in the budget to do that. So
it's totally, they're masks that look a lot like the thing, but with dots on it, so they can animate the mouths and stuff. They can clutch cargo in a dog, a crazy mouth.
Yeah, the dogs' names were Blackie, Boyce, Saxon, and Elsa.
Right.
So there you go. So movie stars. I feel like those dogs are probably well trained and well taken care of. I don't think they're being abused.
Right. Sure.
They're movie dogs.
Yeah.
They live better than we do.
They're happy to be doing the thing that the guy wants them to, and they get steak for it, and it's fine. I'll allow it.
Once you start getting to chimps, I don't like seeing chimps.
No.
Chimps you're not allowed to do anymore.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Because they grow up and rip people's faces off.
Something like that. Yeah, I know.
Like all the chimps you've ever seen are like juvenile chimps, and then once they grow up, like they
don't know what chimps I've seen.
Like any chimp you've ever seen in a movie has
Nobody
been like
knows
a little
the chimps
kid,
I've seen.
And then they have another like 40 to 80 years where they're just fucking miserable living in a
terrible.
It's bad. But dogs are, I guess we like their whole thing is like, did I make you happy?
Yeah.
So
I heard the theory once about why cat videos on the internet are so funnier than dog videos, and it's because cats are jerks who don't want to please us.
Mm-hmm.
So dogs are so eager to please us, they don't care if they fall down. If we laugh at them, they're like, they don't care. But cats seem to think that they have some kind of dignity they're holding on to, so that when they get their comeuppance, it's funnier than a dog.
It's like punching up for cats.
Yeah,
cat videos are punching up.
I
don't ever want to watch a video of like a dog falling off of something, but watch a cat fall off something. It's great. You're right. Yeah.
Well,
Marks.
I have two pocket notes that I have to. One is
notes.
Pocket notes. They're notes from my pocket. Here.
Pete's pocket notes.
And
now here's Pete with Pete's pocket notes.
No, one is with the car stuck like that. I based on my kids are going through a big Harry Potter phase. Maybe one day they'll listen to this and they'll be upset that I didn't say Diagon Alley.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's adorable. You think they'll listen to this one day?
One day, long after I'm dead, they'll be like, "What was Dad doing?" Oh, I doubt they'll get up to minute 10 of Solo, a Star Wars story, but who knows?
I've been doing a podcast, and I did it full time for a while, for the better part of 16 years, and my wife of that whole time never listened to a second of any of it.
Oh yeah,
never will. My kids, they were like, "Wait, you have a podcast?" Like it occurred to them because they knew what it was, and I was like, "Yes."
You guys should hide details in that you like in order to get their inheritance. They have to listen to a certain number of episodes.
The will.
That's not.
It's the journal of the will.
Anything.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but it's nothing they're going to have to worry about.
It's not worth it to plow through hundreds of hours of nerds talking about Star Wars
for what's going to be about $600 left over
in comics.
Which the comics though will only be valuable at that time because of their ability to be burned for heat.
Exactly, yeah. They're fuel.
Here's something else about the Corellian hounds I did not know. Is that they were put in there as a tribute to Ron Howard and George Lucas's production Willow. Apparently there are
hellhounds,
death dogs,
death dogs,
devil dogs,
devil dogs.
Gross.
But I've never seen Willow.
Yeah, they were.
Have either of you guys seen the Willow?
Oh, sure. I saw Willow a lot when I was 10, but
that's
not
kind
really
of
since.
I think for a very brief period, I thought it was the greatest movie of all time.
Wow.
And I never thought it. Like when I was like 10, it was exactly like I loved the sword and sorcery stuff.
Huh.
I
wonder why Willow doesn't seem like it's kind of thought of as a.
It has
classic.
its fans. It has its devotees.
Yeah.
Like throughout the years, there's people who have just been like Willow fans.
That makes sense.
I think what I feel like is that there's no way that it will hold. Like it will ruin. It will taint the memory if I were to watch it again. I feel like. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's great. Maybe it's like you go back and watch American Graffiti and you're like, oh my God, this is genius. I don't think so. But
yeah.
So tough to say. I don't know. coming from I've watched Labyrinth a million times recently because my kids love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I had just watched it on my own, going back into it, I would have been like, oh, this is, it was better. Just kind of, the magic was there when I was a kid. Now, not so much. But now I've just been kind of Stockholm syndromed into being like, yeah, Labyrinth, good.
Love
I feel that way
Labyrinth.
about the movie Cars. It's like,
Joe, if my kids were listening before, now they know that there's a movie called Cars. Come on.
you know what? We're past it. We don't do it anymore. But I watched Cars a lot for a while, and I'm like, it gets a bad rap as far as the Pixar movies go. Like I came around to it. Like I could tell you. Well, I don't know if I could anymore, but there was a period where I could tell you what was great about it. I was like, this is at least the first one. Cars 3 was pretty good.
They've never seen it. I don't think they will. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
You don't think your kids will ever see Cars?
Oh, I know what I was.
Wow.
Yeah,
once they're old. No, before they listen to my 1,000 hours of podcasting, they'll be like, oh, there was another Pixar movie that Dad never showed us.
Wow.
He's saved because there's literally just so much content coming all the time that it's not like before. What I was going to say is that I guess, Alex, you're probably slightly too old that when Willow came out, you're like, screw this.
I was already like in college, so.
Yeah,
right.
no, but
you're like, this isn't real fantasy.
It's for girls.
This is just ripping off Boris. What's his name?
Vallejo.
That's it. I was going to say it, but it didn't sound right in my head.
My other note is I would love to see a not a deleted scene, not an extended scene. I just want to see. I guess we could add this to the Star Wars sketches that I should film. But I want to see the guy who then who called to report his car missing, and then when they find it, it's diagonally stuck between two buildings down by the docks.
I wish we had seen that it was Greedo or some. I wish we had seen whose car that was. That's a big plot hole.
Yeah. I just realized that Diagon Alley is the word diagonally.
That's
why I when you said it. I know when you said it, and I was like, that's kind of funny. And then, however many minutes it's been since then, I went, oh. And this is 20 years. And I'm literally currently listening to the audiobooks with my son as we drive back and forth on the third one. And I've heard that, they said it out loud.
Yeah.
And just now. So.
Wow, and the scary, spooky one is Nocturne Alley, which is nocturnally.
Even that took you saying it out, you explaining it to me.
I know.
Apparently, I don't have that brain capability.
I think it makes more sense if you're British, maybe. I don't know. But it's easier to get if you're British. But then once you see it, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
I just realized now your kids should listen to all these episodes because there are so many sketch ideas, TV show ideas, comic ideas.
Fulfill my legacy. All the stuff that they're going to be entertainment executives. Be like, wow, Dad was it's just a fountain of ideas that he never realized.
We're like,
what if we actually
the
do
Jack
these
Kirby
things?
of just
right.
ideas after ideas.
Yeah, but also we wrote some notes. What is all this stuff? Oh, these are TV shows.
Joey Brown was a comedian and back in the 30s.
Do you know all those Joeys that Dad was talking about? They weren't related. My next note is we get it, the dice.
I was going to ask Josh what he thought about the dice.
I don't think I noticed the dice. But I remember now in retrospect. That's good. I think that's subtle. That's a nod. It's a thing that
Josh is pro dice.
The problem,
pro dice.
They did it before.
Chance cubes.
Chance cubes. We had to clearly see him putting them on the mirror before.
Yeah.
And then we have to clearly see him taking them off the mirror now. So it's a little bit like it's walking right up to the precipice of too much. It's dangling there.
So he doesn't own a car himself. He's an orphan living in the streets. What does he normally do with these? Does he just every time he steals a car, he puts
won't
it
drive
in
something unless there are dice,
right?
Yeah,
chance cubes. It's like the Chinese knockoff of dice on Amazon. It's like chance cubes.
Can't say that.
What a minute! These don't even There's 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. What?
Sabak.
Hey.
Is that how Savak works? You yell Savak like Yahtzee, right?
I think so, right? After it's like number wang. Just every once in a while, there's some numbers things going on, and then every once in a while, somebody's like Savak, and they're like, hey. And so here is where they're running from the hounds. We see them just run straight into the airport, but there was a cut scene here. They run through the dock area
Uh-huh.
And Kira has the idea to hide in a barrel of eels.
Live eels?
Live eels. Now,
what could they possibly do to you that would be worse than hiding in a barrel of live eels?
Well, it does mask their scent from the hounds.
Mm-hmm.
Han feels like you do, but here's where it gets. Remember when they first said, "Hey, we're gonna get a solo movie, a Han Solo movie," and the thing that we said, well, I don't want it to be like, like the first 10 minutes of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where it's just like we have to learn about how he got everything. And this movie ended up being a little bit like that at times, more so than I wanted to, but it did it. I feel like in ways that were better than I was afraid of.
Yes.
But this cut scene has a double reference to the opening 10 minutes of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. First, Kira opens up the thing of eels, and Han backs up. He's afraid of eels. He doesn't like snakes, essentially. And he does
Water
the same
snakes.
kind of a thing. He's like, whoa, no, thank you. And she's like, no, you got to jump in here. It's the only way to save it.
To be fair, that is the correct response to, anybody.
Yeah, I don't think you have to have a phobia of snakes to not want to jump into a barrel of eels.
Well, now I'm all about eels, so I'd be like, yes,
Yeah.
let me commune with the eels. It would be like the end of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It'd just be
You
like,
better
me and
not
the
throw
eels
that out
become
there.
one.
Someone's going to take you up on that. And
What?
invite
They're
you
going to bring a barrel of eels to my house.
Local podcaster dead from bizarre eel accident.
Right.
And an allergy he did not know he possessed.
And this is where my children are like, okay, finally we figured out the eel thing. All right, that's why he did it. All right. It
That
took us,
explains that bathtub.
it took
we're
us
not allowed to
1,200
use.
episodes, but we finally figured out when he said, put me in a barrel of eels.
What is the second Indiana Jones reference in the cut scene?
Well, this one's
He
not
asked
quite. It's a
hesitatingly.
one step removed in that when Han Solo gets out of the barrel of eels, so they hide in there, the hounds go by, they jump out of the barrel of eels, and they take a couple of steps away, and Han Solo reaches into his pants and pulls out an eel that was stuck in there. He reaches into his pants and pulls out an eel.
It was covered in foil.
Yeah, he's like
Derek Smalls.
Jim Morrison. Yeah, but that was a nod to River Phoenix in Stand By Me. River Phoenix in being young Han Solo. So it's like a two-step reference
Wow.
to the opening of that, but there was a reference to River Phoenix, who previously played a younger version of Harrison Ford. Here being
That's a meta.
so
That's a meta.
yeah, and I don't. If I didn't think about it too much, I like the scene as it plays out. It's a well-constructed scene, and it makes sense that it's just they didn't just like run into the airport to escape these guys, which is. I can deal with it. I didn't need it super explained, but I don't know. I could take it or leave it. I'm very much an eel guy right now, so I liked watching the scene.
Why are we
like,
just
yeah, show me more
accepting the
eels.
fact that he keeps saying he's an eel guy?
It's a thread from
Okay.
from Weekend Edition where I used to
Okay.
hate eels. Eels for a long time were my least favorite creature, one of my least favorite creatures on Earth.
Did you come into contact with eels a lot, or was it just the idea of them?
I've come into contact with them from time to time, but also the idea of them totally creeps me out. And then I read a
Yeah,
whole book
just-
about eels, and now I think they're like mystical aliens or something. I don't.
All right.
I bow down at the unknown
Do you want to touch
majesty
them,
of
though?
eels.
You
I
want
don't
to
wanna touch
I don't know. Depends on the eel.
That's the
Pete-
exact texture I don't ever want to come in contact
Hmm.
with. Cold, wet, that. Ugh.
Pete, you were supposed
Sorry.
to destroy the eels, not join them. They become the very thing you swore to destroy.
And yet, despite all that, they decided not to put it in the movie.
If it
Right,
was
which
just to do those two Indiana Jones references,
But it's also to see, like, to get them away from, basically as a transition between, okay, we're running away. How did we get away? They hid in the barrel of eels, and then they get out and they go to the airport.
I would almost
Yeah,
rather
but-
like they ran by and then the thing opens
Yes.
up and then they come out and him being like, like,
Right.
rather than
Or
setting
even
up
like-
a belabored, like,
Or even like, we could hide in there. And they walk on, and then you have like a,
Hmm.
you know. But either way, like, it's not necessary. It doesn't have anything to do with the plot. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't add anything.
That's what I landed on. Eventually, I'm like, well, it didn't change anything. Like, we're fine without it. So
Was she all wet and like
Eely?
eely? when like they cut to the next bit, or she dried off? Or...
I don't know. We should look more closely at this to see how
That
soggy
seems like
they
some
look.
very weird producer request. He's like, I'll fund the money, but Amelia Clark has to get into a barrel of eels at some point in the film.
Right. But then they get into the airport.
Mm-hmm.
The airport. Oh, sorry. Another remnant of a cutscene. This is what I had. This is what happens when all my notes roll downhill to Friday.
Fabulous Friday.
When they're running away from the hounds, you see in the background there's like a blue spherical thing that was the essentially that was the ball of a TIE fighter. They were building TIE fighters here at some point because they had the speeder chase went through many iterations. I'm reading from the Kazdan now. Speeder chase went through many iterations, included some cool ideas that didn't fit in the movie. My favorite of these involved TIE fighter cockpits, fresh off the assembly line, and sans wings. Rolling around like giant bowling balls and Han and Moloch dodging them.
Oh, that's fun.
It's really interesting. When
Another
they talk
Indiana
about
Jones reference. That
could be, yeah.
Chased by a giant boulder.
It's interesting that they keep talking about these ideas of unused things, and they're all about set pieces. It's not about plot, story, character, any of those.
Right.
What if we had big rolling and then we put them in eels? Like, it's not like they've made the right cuts. And it's not like it's a short movie. It's not like you walked out of the movie going, man, that could have been longer. That is not what I thought. What I thought was, wow, they tacked an extra act or two on there. And
Pete,
not even in a bad way, but there's a lot.
Did they film the eel scene, or was this just conceptual?
They filmed the eel scene.
Storyboards, so they did actually film it.
It's a fully realized eel scene that you can see if you look at. I think
she gets
obviously
in the eels, or they both get in the eels.
Buy the movie on digital, Blu-ray, you'll see it.
All right.
What? Yeah, they both jump in the barrel of eels.
How big is this barrel? I'm picturing like a barrel, like one of those New York City orange, traffic things, barrel size.
You're picturing like the kind of barrel a poor person would walk around wearing suspenders.
Yeah, like what you would take over Niagara Falls, that kind of barrel.
A barrel that you can fit two people in. Yeah, two people and a bunch of eels going over Niagara Falls.
A barrel that would say hold monkeys.
But it was more fun to leave it out, apparently, because they went straight through. Yes, but if you look in the background, you see a blue TIE fighter, not a bright white TIE fighter, but the kind of blue-gray gunmetal TIE fighter body, and that's the remnant of that idea.
And that's in the airport?
That's before they get to the airport.
Okay.
That's still when they're running around through the docks, the shipbuilding facilities. Then they get to the airport. And the airport, again, going back to the Kazdan, the airport, they were specifically going for the Ellis Island Godfather 2 vibe of having it be this big, bustling, people going all over the place, a little bit of a mess, because they wanted to give us...
So LAX.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that, LAX... In Terminal 5, I think at LAX, there's the restaurant an airport eatery that I had eaten there a bunch of times, and then one day realized that it's called Ford's Filling Station because it is owned and operated by Harrison Ford's son.
Wow.
So, if
I don't think that was there the last time I was at LAX. I feel like that's...
You're talking about Adam Driver?
Terminal 5 is which one?
I think it's Terminal 5. It was JetBlue for a long time, but they just moved to a new location not too long ago because they expanded. This is airline chat. Because of the pandemic, there were real estate deals, and they moved all of their West Coast hub, their California hub, from Long Beach up to LAX because they had the room.
I remember that you had to go to Long Beach to take JetBlue for a while. Wow,
not anymore.
Bring it back. Anyway, this is terrible. We should talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, let's talk about Long Island causeways again.
That was more interesting.
We see a bunch of DJ Death Squad commanders in the scene in their little booths up there.
They are. They're maintaining and they're dropping the beats.
Tell you something. We could use those in JFK, for example.
There you go.
That I'm not against that.
DJs?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say like Imperial.
Death Squad commander.
Yeah, like Imperial oversight.
No, there you go.
To keep things moving.
People in little big booths up there being like, no.
Yeah.
Well, the alerts, the PA announcements that these guys are making, we could totally use, because basically they're saying, like, do not join. But speaking of DJs, don't join the line if you don't have your ID. Basically, like, we need things like that to be said. If you're there need to be a penalty for if your seat a section has not been called yet. Don't stand up.
So you're pro Imperial.
You still in the airport, yes.
In the airport.
Autocratic, totalitarian
Totally.
airport. Like, yes, we've been taking our shoes off for 20 years. Yes, you still have to do it. You should not know this is coming.
Well, no, we shouldn't
unless you paid extra.
I know what you mean.
If you slipped a little money to the TSA, you could just walk right through that.
I'm not getting into the ethics of it. I'm saying the expectation should be you should not be surprised by this.
No, yeah.
Well, on a related note, I can't tell. So basically, seeing the stormtroopers in what looks to be basically like a TSA type situation, that to me kind of like it kind of cheapens the stormtroopers a bit, because it just seems like they're just like TSA guys.
You're
like
just getting to this now.
I don't know. It just seems like
I'm saying if you're a stormtrooper, you want that gig.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to where they send Han. I mean, like, I got a cushy job. I'm working in the airport.
You think so? So when they're like, what did you do during the war, Daddy? Oh, I was monitoring the airport at Corellian to make sure people took
billions
their belts
of
off.
These guys.
Yeah, they're all.
It's also like, if you think about the way that they punish, wrongdoing in the Imperial, like, you've got less of a chance to be shot by your commander or just sent. I mean, you're cannon fodder everywhere.
Like, do you think that this is like standing around the airport with your shiny armor? Do you think that's a lower tier of job than the traffic cop that we just saw trying to pull over the truck?
Well, here this leads to another question then. In the Imperial hierarchy, is there chance for advancement? Is there rank, or is it all preordained? Can you can you become an officer? Can you get out of the armor? Like, do you you have the chance to advance? Like, is there...
If only we knew some character that was in the Imperial Navy that we could see these kind of questions be answered, but someday.
But never a stormtrooper, that's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the stormtroopers specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they just
that like a locked in
those.
thing, yeah. Is that...
Yeah.
You don't want to be sent, like, on speeder bike patrol to Tatooine. That's awful.
Well, but
most of the time.
But like Tatooine, during World War II, there were some people who wanted to see combat because they're like, I want to have a good war record, and I want
wait, are these guys all still clones or no?
I don't think so. I think after the Clone Wars ended, they phased out the Clone Wars project.
They phased out the made them disappear.
And you know what? I always thought that was a unfortunate decision, because the idea of a clone army seems such a cool, unique kind of thing. At least but it kind of makes sense
in fiction.
Yes, in fiction.
This is not a eugenics conversation.
No, but it makes sense to have a army that was drafted or the people, because then that makes the people on the side of the Imperials.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? If that's our army, then we want it to win, as opposed to, that's a clone army with no connection to our, you know what I mean? It kind of puts the vested interest of the galaxy gets them to root for to be more into the Imperial.
Yeah, but in an Imperial system, it's all conscripted anyway, so it's not gonna. I mean, you're right, but they don't care.
Yeah, but still, like, would. Again, not to get too political, but like, how many do you think you would see the same number of, jingoistic kind of bumper stickers if it wasn't like people's cousins were in the army, people's families had been in there forever? If it was just like, the army is just full of these clones that nobody's ever met. They're not people that we can talk to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. I was going to say I think it's cheap that we got a clone army, but then you put them all in the same armor anyway. Who cares if they could be You know what I mean? They should have had them walking around so you see them, they all look the same and you get weirded out by that. But that's a whole different thing.
Can you like
I see what
okay,
you
so you can sign up for the Imperial Navy.
I can? Thanks, Josh.
Well, no,
They
like
want
you can
you.
like he can go on and get in. You can then they ship you off to infantry. Maybe you can become a pilot or do whatever.
Hmm.
Are the stormtroopers a volunteer army, or are they conscripts, or
Well, by the time of the
because
first order they
Finn,
got. Yeah, they found him as a kid and just, basically it's
Yeah, the
the
first order,
whole-
first order is like child soldiers. They're
Right.
kidnapping people as children and raising them to be soldiers.
you'd have to do a lot of that. I mean,
What do you mean?
They
but
do.
still. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's the size of the empire, I suppose, but
Wait, are you trying to tell me that something in the sequels was not quite thought out? Because anyway, so
Good.
also
it
calling
shouldn't
attention.
be thought out because then you have room for interpretation, and it's always better than trying to explain it.
Hmm.
Fine. It lets us have this conversation, which is something they have not explained, and I don't want them to.
The loudspeaker announcements all with American accents. So
until we get some, but then we get some that are in other languages, which I like.
but I mean not British is what I
Right,
mean.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
not
that's
like
true. Yeah, that's
Imperial
the opposite
British.
of what-
So
But the guy manning the booth, which I don't have a minute on, he
Yeah.
goes back into the old.
Right.
Duh.
but
Ugh.
before we'll give you a chance to give any other thoughts you have on the
Yeah.
movie before we wrap things up.
Right.
Do you do more part of your Friday super episode?
What else did we get after them? Diagonally, Dice, Airport, Don't Join the Line. Oh, this is where we get your move along, Josh.
Yeah.
You were talking about that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Which is just something they say.
Yeah. I think it begs the question of, like, does it take me out of it or does it put me in it? I think it's actually a combination of both. Like, I
Raises the question.
notice it in a good way and a bad way all at the same time.
Mm. Yeah. I feel
There's
that.
I don't think there's any winning that. So it's because we're not casual.
One weird thing
I
is the stormtroopers don't seem to have holsters. They all seem to be holding their guns all the time, which must make like arresting someone like more difficult because you can't use two hands to try to subdue them. They're just kind of like,
I think it's more just, it's like figurehead. They're like a show of force.
oh yeah, no, I get the idea of it, but it seems considering how specialized a lot of the stormtroopers are, it's funny that these guys still have to go with that rule about
Right.
You know.
But,
But I
no,
think that
I mean,
the
in this case,
specialization is part of why they're holding. You don't need a holster because you're supposed to hold the gun.
right. You're supposed to just show everybody that you have a gun so they behave. Like for a while, like every once in a while when something, life-threatening would happen, and then there would be like National Guardsmen with M16s or AR whatever's in the subways, and they're not there to do anything other than just make a show
Hold
of
the
force.
gun.
Like, look, there's people with guns here, so better
Right.
behave.
Right.
I would
but
like
these
to
guys
think in
we
the
see
fiction-
are hauling someone away, so they really are trying
Yeah.
to. They're actually
That's true.
Yeah, I would like to think in the fictional world of Star Wars, like they're absolutely expecting to shoot people.
Mm.
right.
Because it's much
Yeah.
more severe consequences. You think it's hard to hold a gun like that? Boba Fett can only hold it by crossing his arm over it in a very specific way, while
Oh,
usually
yeah.
also holding a helmet. There's a little side criticism for you.
I will say that one thing I would have liked to have seen in this whole airport is more aliens. It seemed like it would have been a good opportunity to sprinkle in a little bit of cantina flavoring to kind of.
There's no Star Wars scene that isn't going to be made better by adding more and distinct aliens.
This is
True.
true.
And if you've
Although-
ever thought there aren't enough aliens in this scene, you're right. Like if that occurred
That's
to you,
true.
they already blew it.
Although it is it's a humanoid planet.
Right.
And
It's a
it's
commerce
probably
hub,
not,
though.
Yeah, but maybe not this. I don't think this station. I don't think it's the
Fair.
main.
But especially if they're going for a Godfather 2 Asylum
true,
kind of
yeah.
vibe, it should be more variety than just a bunch of people wearing robes. Or
Right.
even if they're all human, at least have them wearing something that's strikingly like of a different culture than just,
Movies are worse at doing the thing you're talking about than they ever were. And I don't know if it's because, like, whenever there's like groups of aliens, like I feel like there's been so many movies that the cliches have developed, and it's like, all right, put them in robes, put them in a hood, so they just have to do a mask. Rick Baker had to do a bunch of different and weird aliens, and we remember them to this day, and they were different shapes and sizes, and it was done correctly, and now they don't bother with it. They just, like, put a fish man in a mask. Like, and that's everything. Like everybody's in robes. Why would they be in robes? It doesn't make any sense. That is not that is going to fit everywhere. Everybody. A lot of the aliens now are humanoid. In Boba Fett, they even like took aliens that were like the Twi'leks, which were more extreme and alien, and made them more human. Like it's one of those things that is like they can do anything now with CGI. Actually, Episode 1 was really good with that. The other movies I don't remember, but like all the pod racers at least were compared to what you'd see now. Like there was variety and like diversity and form, and the imagination of it, but it feels like that's gone away.
I think Force Awakens had in Maz's castle. I think they had some good aliens. Yeah, in that one, and some.
And I'm not even just talking about Star Wars. Even it's just like sci-fi movies, or Star Wars is a big part of it. But,
right?
Marvel movies, like the aliens are always just humans.
Well, yeah, I feel that way both physically and culturally. Like every race we meet is like they cultures don't tend to be too different. They're very like, anyway.
Not to I gotta say, Canto Bight had a lot of weird.
Canto Bight also
had a lot of weird looking aliens in different cultures, different shapes, different sizes.
Rich aliens.
Nobody was wearing a cloak.
Every Star Wars movie needs either like bounty hunter. You need some scene with a bunch of aliens in one scene in it for people to
an overwhelming amount that you couldn't possibly.
Right. You need something for us to dig into for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Instead, what we do is take a couple of minutes to dig into how they're not there.
Right. Exactly.
Proving a negative.
Yeah.
But that I think was all. I kept like, why did I write the cockpit? And I wrote TIE cockpit. We already talked about that. So. Either of you guys have anything else? Josh, did you want to just chime in anything, one overall thing about Solo, about you want to get your overalls, talk about Solo for a bit?
I have to say, if I'm being honest, I don't find it terribly memorable. Like I remember kind of enjoying it, but not much about it. I remember the broad strokes of really I remember looking forward to Donald Glover being Lando and being sort of like, oh, this feels like an impersonation. And then, like I said, the opposite of Alden Ehrenreich. I think who's the is it L3? Is that
L1?
L1 L337.
Yeah.
L1 was the ones that we saw driving by, right?
Like I thought that concept was kind of interesting, and then he was in love with the ship, and then that's what that was all kind of fun. I remember thinking like, why is Jon Favreau in this, and why is it was a lot of why like. I think that generally when you put celebrities in Star Wars that I know, in character role parts, like it takes me out of it. I'm like, why is Woody Harrelson in this? Like it just doesn't feel right. It's I don't want to recognize people in it, or at least not to that extent. But now celebrities want to be in Star Wars, and it's fine. But I just remember thinking it was it's a heist movie. There's a car chase. There wasn't anything that was inherently wrong about it. It wasn't offensive, but it was kind of forgettable, and it kind of shouldn't be, but also it's such a tall order. I don't know how you'd succeed at this. Like it would be an amazing feat to make this movie live up to the potential of what you'd want or what it could be.
Right.
I feel like The Mandalorian, really.
Yeah, it's true. It's with the expectation is game was always tricky with these,
Well, I've learned since 1999 to have no expectations.
Yeah, it killed
like
that in all of us.
I've been there. Well, but I'll still people will be like, "Oh, you excited for the new Star Wars?" And it's like, not in the way you are.
No,
well, no. But also, of course, I'm not. It's not for me anymore. They can't keep making movies for me, and I'm not going to feel the way I did. So it's academic to watch it, and if they give you a feeling, The Force Awakens, and that was really good about that. It gave you that feeling a bunch of times. Like, oh, it was sort of, but it's bonus.
Yeah.
Are there any franchises you still enjoy? Just on a personal level, not show related?
I like the Marvel movies. I think as we get into whatever the phase they're in now, less so because they used up all their material. But I think at some point in the last year, I watched like Captain America through Avengers, like all that sort of main storyline. And then at the end of it, I was like, I want more of this. I really felt that way. I'm not like a hyper fan. I don't, but in the same way that we would with Star Wars. But I really like those. I'd say that's probably as close. But that's like all of cinema now. Like that's what movies are. It has to be that. They're just lucky that they're pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. I think. I don't know.
Well.
I don't know what I look forward to anymore. I find it's harder. No, I find it's harder to like get excited about things that are coming. It's almost like I get surprised.
Right.
The things that because there's so much stuff. How do you get excited for so much stuff? Like
cautious optimism. Remember that was what we were talking about for these new movies. We're like, all right, well, could be good, but I'm not gonna bet the farm on it, but it could be good.
Like I'm not sure Dad is gonna show up for his weekend and take me somewhere fun, but he might.
It's possible.
Yeah. Wow. What a dark.
My dad never came.
Oh.
He's dead.
On that note,
he is.
Here's something to look forward to. Alex and I will do a show called Stars Minute Weekend Edition on the weekends for our Patreon supporters.
It's true, all of it.
If you give us a recurring donation, recurring support at different levels, you get access to different shows. You might be able to get us in your ears 7 days a week. So if that's what you want, then go to StarWarsMinute.com/Patreon, and you can support us there. You get access to hundreds of back catalog episodes. So check it out. Enjoy. Meet you back here on Monday for a brand new episode of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.